My name is Sarah Montgomery. I'm 36 years old and have been married for 12 years to Mark, a real estate executive who lately spends more time in New York than here, in our home in southern Georgia. I've always loved our secluded house, surrounded by old trees and lavender beds. Here, the sound of the world is muffled. It's peaceful, or it was until today. Today, my old Ford F-150 decided to give up for good. Not even a sigh, honestly. I turned the key and nothing. Silence. And if there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that silence can be deafening when you're already falling apart inside. That silence is what made me call for help. That silence is what brought Cole Jackson to my door. Miller's Auto Rescue, good afternoon. Hi, I need a mechanic. Something's up with my engine. It's completely dead. We can send someone over in about an hour. His name is Cole. Perfect. I'll be waiting. I hung up and went to the garage. I grabbed a rag and started wiping down the truck as if that would bring it back to life, trying to look busy. To hide the anxiety I wouldn't admit to myself. And that's when I heard a strong, steady engine rolling up the gravel road. A black SUV pulled into the driveway, and from the driver's seat stepped out. Him, Cole, tall, built, wearing an open flannel shirt that revealed a tight undershirt stained with grease and sweat. A worn-out cap shaded his light brown hair. His scruffy beard gave him a dangerous edge, and his eyes, blue as the sky, which was beginning to darken with storm clouds. Sarah. Yes. He extended his hand, greasy, firm. I took it, and I swear, it felt like a live wire passed between us. Can you show me the problem? He asked, and there was something in that voice, low, deep, slow. I opened the garage, and without a word, he went straight to the hood and lifted it like it weighed nothing. You try starting it? I did. Well, sometimes all an engine needs is a little encouragement. I turned to him with a half smile. Does that work for everything in life? He paused for a second, pulled off his gloves slowly, and looked straight into my eyes. If you know where to touch, most things come back to life. As he leaned under the hood, I watched every muscle in his back move under that tight shirt, the clink of tools, the way he wiped sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. I stood still, but inside, something stirred. Desire, curiosity, fear. My fingers gripped the stair rail like I was holding onto a live wire. You mind if I smoke? He asked, already holding a cigarette between his lips. Go ahead. And in that second, with the lighter's flame illuminating his face, Cole looked like a spark about to ignite everything around him. You live out here alone? My husband travels a lot. He leaves a woman like you out here with a busted engine? That wasn't an innocent question, and the way he said it, like every word was a wrench slowly tightening around my thoughts. Sometimes, more than the engine is broken, he turned to me with a half smile, and sometimes you need someone who really knows how to fix it. And right there, in the garage's shadow, surrounded by oil, grease, and lavender, I realized Cole wasn't just fixing my truck. He was testing my entire system. And maybe I was ready to break on purpose. The sound of the screwdriver scraping metal echoed like an indecent whisper through the garage. It was strange how something so mundane could feel almost erotic. Maybe it was the heat, or the silence of weeks alone, or maybe it was him, Cole, kneeling in front of my truck, dismantling the ignition with the patience of a man who knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't talk much, the kind of man who measured silence before spending words. I, on the other hand, talked too much, but not there. There, my voice felt stuck between my chest and my desire. Do you work alone? I asked, trying to sound casual. He didn't take his eyes off the engine. Always been better that way. Fewer people getting in the way. I imagine you like to be in control. When you put your hands on a machine, Sarah, you need to know where to touch and how hard. Otherwise, you'll break it for good. My heart jumped. This conversation sounded innocent on the surface, but underneath, It was a game, a prelude. He stood up and walked toward me, wiping his hands with an old rag. It's gonna take a while. Old parts, gonna need some careful handling. Think she's got any life left in her? If it's up to me, she'll purr like new. The way he said purr, it was like he was talking about me. Maybe he was. I offered him coffee. He gave a slight nod. We walked to the kitchen. The wooden table, the old kettle on the gas stove, the ceiling fan spinning lazily. While the coffee brewed, I could feel his gaze on me. Not directly, but like someone studying a map before exploring the terrain. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, muscles tense under his shirt, grease on his fingers. But what drew me in was his silence, as if he wasn't in a hurry, as if he was waiting for me to make the next move. You always look at women like that? I ventured. He raised an eyebrow. No, only when they look like they want to be seen. And what do you see? A woman with more tension in her body than in the truck's electrical system. I swallowed hard. He gave a half smile. Could be wrong, of course, but my gut rarely fails me. The kettle hissed, boiling over like even the stove had lost control. He stepped closer, reached for a mug on the shelf. His fingers brushed against mine. It was quick, but it was enough. A touch. And my whole system short-circuited. You know, Sarah? He said, his voice lower now. Old engines are like some people. They keep warmth inside even when they seem cold outside. I let out a nervous laugh. And what do you do when you find one like that? Warm it up slowly, no forcing. Just enough to remind it can still run. I froze. His eyes locked on mine. Silence. We were only inches apart, and the weight of wanting. A drop of hot coffee landed on my finger as I held the mug. It stung, but not as much as that stare. Cole gently took my hand, led me to the sink, turned on the faucet. The cold water flowed over my fingers, but all I could feel was the heat from his palm on my skin. You really ought to take better care of your hands, he murmured, voice closer than it should have been. I didn't answer because, by then, every part of me had turned into a question. My mind said, stop. My body said, come closer. He turned off the faucet, but didn't let go. The water dripped between our tangled fingers. His eyes stayed on mine, steady, confident, as if to say, tell me this isn't what you want. And I didn't say a word. He released my hand, walked to the kitchen door, turned around before leaving. I'll go get the parts. Be back before sunset. You think you'll get it running? I asked, my voice raspier than I intended. He paused, looked at me like he saw everything. Sarah, if you let me, I'll make her run so smooth it'll feel brand new. And then he left. But he left behind the smell of grease, a wet handprint on the sink, and the certainty that the real machine about to blow was me. The sun had dipped halfway toward the horizon when I heard the deep growl of that black SUV on the gravel road again. This time, the sound wasn't just a car arriving. It was a promise. Cole stepped out slowly, like he had all the time in the world. He carried a toolbox and a bag with new parts. But what he carried in his eyes was the same heat he'd left with me earlier. Hope you're still hungry for a fix, he said, with a smirk trained to melt defenses. Depends on what kind of fix, I replied, barely noticing how much lower my voice had dropped. He gave me a crooked smile, glanced at the truck, then back at me. Some engines need more than just tools. They need attention. You give attention like that to all your clients. He walked up to me, eyes locked on mine. Only the ones screaming on the inside. Silence, the kind that screams. He crouched before the truck again, working the ignition with precision. But it was impossible to ignore how his hands moved across the parts, like each touch was an unspoken warning of what he could do. I moved closer, slowly. Need me to hold something? I asked on purpose. He looked over his shoulder, a glint in his eye. Hold this, he said, handing me a wrench. My hand brushed his. It was fast but enough to ignite me again. He paused for a moment, looked up at me from below. "You're shaking, Sarah." It's just the heat." "No, it's not." He stood up, set the tools down. The distance between us disappeared. "Sarah, there's something in you begging to be unlocked, and I can hear every bolt creaking." He pulled me close by the waist. My breath caught. His mouth came close enough to mine to make me forget my husband's name. But he didn't kiss me. "Not yet." "If you want me to stop, now's the time," he said, his voice low, rough, almost pleading. I could feel his chest against mine. His hands, big and firm, gripped my waist like he was calibrating me. "And if I want you to keep going, then, Sarah." "I won't stop, not for a second." Then he kissed me, wet, hot, hungry. The kind of kiss that carries weeks of silence, months of absence, years of frustration. My hands found his neck, pulling him in, heat surging all the way to my scalp. Cole turned me around, pressed me against the truck bed. His hands slid down my back, down my thighs, slowly working upward, feeling every curve like my body was a machine he knew by heart. "You always smelled like this?" he whispered against my neck. "Like what?" "Like something about to catch fire." I started unbuttoning his shirt, revealing a firm chest, warm and smeared with grease. Cole was rough, but with a tenderness that nearly made me cry. He ran his fingers beneath my shirt like he was inspecting a rare part, tracing the surface, pressing only where he should. "You're melting," he said, and I was. "Turn on the AC?" I gasped. He chuckled, a deep, rumbling laugh full of heat. "I've got my own cooling system," he said, then lowered his mouth to my breasts, kissing them with a hunger that felt like reverence. My legs parted instinctively as he knelt before me, gripping my thighs with purpose. Slowly, like he was unlocking a mechanism, he pulled down my panties. It's ready to run. It's been waiting a long time." He looked up at me, then said nothing. And he put his mouth where my body needed him most. The sound of my moans blended with the warm wind rustling through the trees. His tongue was firm and experienced, like he could read maps with its tip. My fingers gripped the truck's hood tightly. My breath came out in broken gasps, moans short and sharp. He was tuning me, calibrating me, bringing me back. And when my voice melted into one long, primal cry, he stood up, turned me around, and bent me over the hood, now warm from the sun. "Sarah, now it's your turn to feel what real torque can do to your system." He slid into me with one smooth motion, deep, precise, like we were made to fit. Our rhythm was raw, real, each thrust as powerful as a hammer strike in a workshop. One hand gripped my waist. The other roamed between my breasts, across my lips, everywhere. I was his, and he was the best fix I'd ever had. When I climaxed, he held me tighter, whispering my name in a voice low and shaking. He came right after, and for a moment, the world shut off. The only sound was our hearts, pounding and wild like engines after a full throttle race. We collapsed on the garage floor among tools and oil. He pulled me close as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "Sarah, now I can say for sure this engine's running better than ever." I smiled, sweaty, naked, still trembling. "There's still a long road ahead, Cole." He kissed me again, slower this time. No rush, like a man who knows he'll be back for regular maintenance, already running his hands over my headlights, checking my frame. The silence returned, but it was a different kind of silence now, not the one that screams loneliness, but the one that follows an explosion, as if the world is holding its breath for the next beat. Cole was lying next to me on the garage floor. His body still warm, our breaths still out of sync. The smell of grease mixed with my perfume and sweat filled the space like a quiet witness. "Haven't heard a purr like that in this garage for a long time," he said with a lazy smile, his hand resting on my bare hip. I laughed softly, still stunned by what we'd just done. "And where? This truck will never be the same." "Neither will you." His words hit me harder than I expected. Because they were true, I stood slowly, my muscles tight, my body sensitive like a newly installed part. I dressed in silence. Cole watched me, not with the hungry gaze from earlier, but something deeper. Like he'd seen all of me inside and out. He stood too, gathering his tools calmly. "You leaving now?" I asked, quicker than I meant to. He glanced at me sideways, a soft smile on his lips. "Only if you want me to. I don't know what I want." And that was the truth. While he shut the truck's hood, I sat on the porch with a cup of coffee now lukewarm. The sky burned orange with a movie-worthy sunset, but inside me, the sky was still unsettled. Mark was still in New York, in meetings, business dinners. He had no idea that his wife, on the garage floor of a house he rarely visited, had just shattered in moans across the back of a pickup truck. I should have felt guilty, but all I felt was, "Alive, you're a million miles away," Cole said, stepping behind me. Trying to understand what that was. It was what it needed to be. He sat next to me, took the mug from my hand, took a sip. "Sometimes, Sarah, we spend so long living in neutral, we forget what it feels like to shift into gear. You didn't try to touch me, didn't try to repeat anything. He just stayed, close, present, and that was worse, or better, I didn't know. Because it gave me space, but it didn't let me run. You going to judge me if I say I feel alive for the first time in years? No. And if I say that scares me, then we're both scared." Silence again. "You're married." "I know. And still, your body called to me with a volume I couldn't ignore." I turned to him. "And now?" "Now, you decide if this was just a temporary fix or a full rebuild." Boom. He always had a metaphor ready, always knew where to press, and always used his tool in the right spots at the right pressure. The sky darkened. Crickets started to sing. Cole stood up. "I could come back tomorrow to clean the carburetor. Is that so? Or I could stay and take care of more delicate parts." My body reacted before my mind could. I stood, walked to him, touched the hem of his sweaty shirt. "The front door's open." "And the back?" he asked, smirking. I smiled back. "You already have the key." We went upstairs. This time it wasn't wild, it was warm, deep, intimate. He undressed me with the care of someone dismantling a rare part. The kisses were long, unhurried. The touches deliberate and tender. It wasn't just lust anymore. It was something asking to stay. We made love slowly, feeling every breath, every contraction. He whispered my name like he was memorizing it. And I unraveled in him, like a gear finally finding its perfect rhythm sliding softly into his tool. Afterward, we lay in silence, naked, between wrinkled sheets and open windows. The night breeze carried the scent of earth, damp with rain that never came. And inside, everything was warm, no longer needing to be suppressed. "Are you still leaving?" I whispered. "Only if you ask me to." I touched his face gently, trying to memorize every line, every detail. "Stay, just for tonight." Just tonight, but neither of us believed the lie. Savannah, Georgia, Sunday, 6:43 a.m. morning light spilled through the window like gentle but relentless reminder that the night was over. Cole's body was still warm beside me. His breathing was slow, heavy like sleeping next to me was a safe place. But for me, sleep never came. I spent the night wide awake, listening to the sounds of the old house, the ceiling fan, the rain that never came, and to my thoughts, "You have a husband." That sentence echoed like a mental siren every 5 minutes, but it was always followed by another. "He's not here." "And how long has it been since you were?" I got up quietly, stepped onto the porch wearing only a t-shirt with a cup of coffee in hand. The sun was rising behind the pines, painting everything gold, and even with that peaceful scene, my chest felt like a battlefield. Cole appeared at the door, leaning on the frame. He looked at me like he could read my thoughts. "You always wake up this early?" "Only when my head won't shut up." "And today?" I turned to him, looked into his eyes. "Feels like an engine running without oil." He walked closer, shirtless, hair messy, eyes still heavy with sleep. He placed a hand on my waist. Not to seduce, but to anchor me. "You're thinking about leaving," he said. "No, I'm thinking about what happens if I ask you to stay." "Then I stay." Simple, direct, no drama. And that's exactly what scared me. Cole. We're not just a mechanical problem. We're human. With feelings, history, lives that don't fit in a garage. And since when does fixing something have to be simple? His answer hit me like a jolt. You think I'm not confused too? I'm just trying not to run away from this. Run? I'm married. I'm cheating on my husband. You've been cheating yourself for years, Sarah. You're just now starting to listen. The phone buzzed on the porch table. Mark. His name was like a gust of cold air. I let it ring. He left a message. "Hey, babe. Caught an earlier flight. I'll be home tonight. Miss you." My hand trembled. Cole read my face before I could say a word. "It's him?" I nodded. "Then it's time to shift into reverse." He went inside, got dressed slowly, in silence. Each piece of clothing he put on felt like a gear turning backward, as if we were undoing everything from the last 24 hours. "I'm not mad," he said. "I know, but I want you to know. What happened here wasn't just physical, Sarah. It was soul deep." I stood still. Tears threatened. "You touched parts of me I thought were broken for good." He stepped forward, kissed my forehead, and left. This time, no engine growl, no metaphors, just silence. The same silence that started it all. I stayed there, alone. My body still carried his scent. The bedroom, the garage, even the porch seat ... All of it reminded me, but what hurt most ... was the scent of life I let slip away out of fear. 9:04 p.m., Mark arrived. Same suitcase. Same rushed kiss. Same tired voice. "You okay? You look exhausted." I smiled, because I was. Tired of being someone I wasn't, but something inside me had been rewired. And once an engine starts running again, it never forgets how to roar. Savannah, Georgia, Wednesday. 3 days later, the house was clean. His clothes were neatly folded. Dinner was on the table at 7 p.m. like always. And me? I wasn't really there anymore. I sat at the table, pushing mashed potatoes around my plate without eating. Mark went on about some meeting, a new project, an investor wanting to build a resort by the lake. I smiled. I nodded. But inside, I was in the garage. I was with Cole. Since he left, he hadn't messaged, hadn't called, and that hurt more than goodbye. Not because I wanted him to beg, but because anyone who feels something knows when silence is the loudest scream. Mark went to bed early, like always. I laid beside him, but the pillow felt too cold even with his body there. I closed my eyes and saw Cole's hands on my back. Heard his voice telling me I was alive. Felt the heat of a kiss that made me lose all reason. 9:04 p.m., Mark arrived. Same suitcase. Same rushed kiss. Same tired voice. "You okay? You look exhausted." I smiled because I was. Tired of being someone I wasn't, but something inside me had been rewired. And once an engine starts running again, it never forgets how to roar. Savannah, Georgia, Wednesday. 3 days later, the house was clean. His clothes were neatly folded. Dinner was on the table at 7 p.m. like always. And me? I wasn't really there anymore. I sat at the table, pushing mashed potatoes around my plate without eating. Mark went on about some meeting, a new project, an investor wanting to build a resort by the lake. I smiled. I nodded. But inside, I was in the garage. I was with Cole. Since he left, he hadn't messaged, hadn't called, and that hurt more than goodbye. Not because I wanted him to beg, but because anyone who feels something knows when silence is the loudest scream. Mark went to bed early, like always. I laid beside him, but the pillow felt too cold even with his body there. I closed my eyes and saw Cole's hands on my back. Heard his voice telling me I was alive. Felt the heat of the kiss that made me lose all reason. He arrived in 40 minutes. Got out of the SUV with those same steady steps, cap turned backward, and a different look in his eyes. Less hunger. More longing. What kind of trouble is she having this time? He asked, stopping in front of me. Same as last time, I think. And you? What kind of trouble have you had these past few days? Plenty. Any I can fix? I sighed. Not sure this kind comes with replacement parts. We sat on the porch. The tension was still there. But different, deeper, more emotional. You disappeared, I said. I wanted to respect your space. It hurt. It hurt me too. Eyes locked. No running. No metaphors. Sarah, I didn't come here because of the truck. I know. I came because, even after everything, I can't stop thinking about you. I blinked hard. The tears threatened again, but I held them back. What do you want from me? The truth. Even if it's the last time. I'm married, Cole. You've got a paper. A deal. A routine. Easy for you to say from the outside. I'm not outside, I've been inside you. Inside your soul, you let me in. Silence. What are you saying? I'm saying, if you tell me right now it was just a mistake, I'll get in my truck and never bother you again. And if I say it wasn't, he stepped closer. His eyes sparkled like when he first looked under that hood. Then I stay. And we figure it out, even if it's messy, even if it takes time. But we live, for real. My heart pounded like a furious piston. My mind said, stay put. My body said, run to him. But my soul, it whispered, it's time. I stood, walked to the front door, went inside, headed to the bedroom. Mark still slept, peaceful, distant, like always. I looked at the suitcase in the corner, the suitcase that never got fully unpacked, and I understood. The suitcase wasn't just his. It was mine too, because for a long time now, I'd already started leaving. I returned to Cole. He was still there, waiting, not demanding, not promising. I don't know what this will be. Neither do I. But I know I don't want to go back to a dead engine. He smiled. This time it was relief. Then let's fire it up together.